Hello, and welcome to Break Panel Sports. I'm John, joined alongside Joel, and you definitely don't know who we are, and that's okay. That's what we do around here. But if you somehow watched On the Break back in like 2020, because
You're an
we
OG.
are an OG right there. Shout out to On the Break podcast. I don't even know. It's probably hard to find it on YouTube at this point. Maybe not.
Probably.
Um, but we did the only thing that I ever did with that thing. We interviewed Todd Frazier, and that was cool. But
That was the coolest
that
thing
was
we've ever done in our whole
it was
our
up
whole
there.
lives.
It was
Yeah.
up. It was up there for sure. But hopefully, maybe we'll get a new era. We'll get a new cool guest one of these days. However, today you're just stuck with us. Joel, how we doing? By the way, Break Panel Sports, the first episode. How we living?
I'm doing ecstatic. I'm ecstatic right now, man. Honestly, I mean, we've
Yeah.
been, this is one of those things where, like, we made it out of the talking phase,
Right.
of
Right.
just
Right.
saying, oh, yeah, I would love to bring this back. I would love to do this with you, man. It'd be awesome. And now it's like, oh my God, we're actually doing this.
Yep.
Here we go. We got it,
And
man.
can you be unlike any other podcast to get past episode 10? That's the big test.
That's
We
the,
we've
yeah,
we've gotten past episode 10 before. Okay, we've gotten like 50. But that was also, shout out to COVID. We had a lot more time to record podcasts back in the day. But we've got time now, and we're going to talk about
exactly.
some great stuff. We like to talk about football, love to talk about basketball. We'll figure everything else out if we ever do. But today, we've had a lot go on in the past week, past couple of weeks. We are recording this on July 29th, so we're kind of just basing it off then. But 4 days ago or so, Saquon Barkley, after many, and I mean many, discussions, he went on a podcast and they had a whole elite running back. Hey, Dobbins was invited to for whatever reason, you know. But after all that, I'm sure you've heard about that. You don't need me to regurgitate it to you. Saquon Barkley, as you know, signed a 1-year, $11 million deal that included a $2 million signing bonus, so he makes just a little bit more than the old franchise tag. And now we'll see what happens with Josh Jacobs. We'll see what happens with a lot of other guys that need contracts. But Joel, you are indeed a fan of the New York Football Giants, and I'm sure this has to feel good but also feels a little strange because, yes, you signed a deal, but it is a 1-year deal, not 2, not 5, not 4. It's 1 year, $11 million. Anything can still happen with Saquon Barkley.
I like just point out real quick. Keep in mind, they were intentionally trying to franchise tag him. They obviously agree on a 1-year deal. He can get franchise tagged next year.
Yes.
He could get franchise. So I'm like, you know what, man? Okay, here's my thing. Here's my whole opinion about the New York Giants and Saquon Barkley right now. Okay. I understand the argument of, oh, I mean, come on. He was your entire offense last year. What do you mean? Like, you need to pay him. He's obviously one of the best running backs in this league. My argument to that is listen, this guy is 26, 27 years old. He's 26. He's going to be 27 by the start of the season. I believe so, if not next year. If you were to sign him to a 4-year deal, you're signing him all the way up to he's 30, 31, right? And I'm like, me personally, I don't want to be paying $14 million for a 30-year-old plus running back. I really don't want to be doing that.
Yep.
And not to mention, Joe Shane realizes here, did the Seahawks struggle at all to get K9? Did Austin Eckler was undrafted. I mean, Dameon Pierce, he went in like what, the third round? I mean, come on, like it's not that hard to find running backs in this league, man. It's not that hard. You look at like majority of like the starting running backs in this league, guys who were like amazing, guys who are like top tier. Not many of them were like top picks. Not many of them were first round picks. Not many of them were second round picks. Like I'm telling you, he's realizing this and saying, you know what? I will keep Saquon here. I made him an offer back in, I want to say it was like October or November. They made an offer. He declined it. Now all of a sudden he wants that offer back, and they're saying, "Well, no, we're not going to do that." And I'm looking at this and just saying, Saquon's doing it to himself. Saquon's doing it to himself, and not to mention he doesn't have a lot of leverage. He doesn't have a lot of leverage,
Not
in my
much.
opinion.
I mean, you look at Isaiah Pacheco with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they just won a Super Bowl. you have that aspect to it. I mean, I'm totally with that. I have always been, someone who is not big on signing running backs to long-term deals. I know we found a clip from like 3 years ago where we talked about this
Yeah,
too
we
already.
talked about this. We talked about this
And I mean,
exact
this has been a
topic.
discussion, right? This has been a discussion for so long. For so long, we've been talking about should you pay the running back? And I think there are a couple deals that really ruined the running back market forever. I mean, it just will never be the same after Todd Gurley, after Ezekiel Elliott, and after Le'Veon Bell. Those are kind of the three names that you really think of, guys that were at the top of their game for a while, looked like, oh my goodness, this guy's going to be the best running back in football, for the next 5 years, 6 years. This deal is a no-brainer. Todd Gurley, that not Todd Gurley's situation was not his fault. He had to deal with injury issues and all of that and arthritis, and then it was just an unfortunate situation. Le'Veon Bell, he wasn't exactly all that into it. He says he regrets signing with the Jets. He says he should have stayed with Pittsburgh and all that. And Ezekiel Elliott is visiting with the Patriots right now, so we'll see what happens with him. However, my thing about Saquon Barkley, and I know that, insanity, the definition of it is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And the thing was, I was totally against those deals back then. I never wanted those teams to sign their running backs to long-term deals. But my only thing here is, there is that argument, though, that the Giants, their offense is this guy by the name of Saquon Barkley. And you're paying Daniel Jones, what, $40 million a year. Now, I think the Giants have kind of, they've signed enough players to where they don't have that free room to sign Barkley, like it wouldn't really matter. But
Mhm.
the thing about Saquon Barkley, and you look at a guy like Christian McCaffrey, right? He got his deal. He had no
Yeah.
problem getting his deal because he is the best running back in football, arguably. Now you talk about K9, you talk about Dameon Pierce. How big in your mind is the gap between a guy like Kenneth Walker and the gap between Saquon Barkley? It's pretty large, I'd imagine.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I would make the argument that I don't think very soon it's gonna be that long.
How soon is the question, right? Because if you sign Saquon to a 4-year deal, you kind of get him on the back end of it, and you
Because
get two really good years.
keep in mind, K9 didn't play the first half of the season.
He did not. He was hurt. Yes.
He did not play, and like not only that, Rashad Penny was like he was like the RB1 for them, but
Right.
once he got on the scene, he blew up. It was like he's been playing he's been playing in the NFL for like 10 years, like the
Right.
way you saw him playing, and it's like, listen, I just don't find it hard to find a guy like him again next year. I don't think I don't think it would be that difficult. And people saying, yeah, Saquon was the face of the offense. Saquon was like 30% of the offense last year. You know what I say to that? Find a new face of the offense. Find a new offensive scheme. Pass more with Daniel Jones. The guy had 15 passing touchdowns last year. You think he
Oh,
can't do a little more than that? Come on, man.
you want to
Like
pass more with Daniel Jones? That's a pretty big risk. I mean,
he only had like 5 interceptions last year.
because of his passing total amount of pass attempts was not as high.
And we
They weren't
rushed more
throwing a
with
lot of
Daniel
deep balls.
Jones.
Daniel Jones he had the same. It was this take coming out of college. Everybody was saying this about him. Daniel Jones is one of those guys. He won't lose you a game, but he cannot win you a game. Well, he can lose you the game, but he can't win you the game. Is actually what it was said
So
because
he's
he's
Kirk Cousins.
that guy that he's. I guess he's Kirk Cousins with a little bit of. He's
More
clumsy Kirk Cousins.
mobility.
He's clumsy Kirk Cousins actually.
He has
Um,
a little more mobility.
I mean, Kirk Cousins is 10 times the passer that Daniel Jones is. I
I
mean, this guy
I will admit he is a better passer than Daniel Jones. I will admit
by
that.
like a wide margin, by a
I don't know
pretty
if it's.
good margin. I mean, Daniel Jones has a little bit of a deep ball, but they don't use that deep ball. They don't try to. Well, they had no receivers, obviously, but I mean,
I
it's not
think
like.
I think if you put Justin Jefferson on the Giants, Daniel Jones would make a Pro Bowl.
I mean, you can make Kevin Cobb look good with Justin Jefferson. That's the problem.
That's what I mean.
But are you going to win a Super Bowl is the question. Are you going to win a Super Bowl with a top tier running back like Saquon Barkley? I don't know. I don't see it. It doesn't really happen. You don't really win Super Bowls with running backs like Saquon Barkley. You just don't. You
Doesn't
don't win
happen.
Super Bowls with guys like Justin Jefferson. I'd argue as well with superstar receivers that are going to get big contracts. So it's this never ending issue with skill position players where what is that gap between in terms of winning and in terms of talent. What's the trade-off when you have, Matt Breida versus Saquon Barkley? How many more games do the Giants win if Matt Breida is the one starting all those games rather than
Or
Saquon
Eric Gray.
Eric Gray, Oklahoma legend. He's
Eric
kind of slow,
Gray.
but he's a great power back. The Giants are going to like him a lot in the red zone, I think. Um, but I mean, for these Giants, right? So at the end of the day, we can talk about this all we want. Next season,
No,
Saquon Barkley is a New York Giant, right?
exactly.
I mean, that's all that matters. Where do you see these Giants going? Is the question with Saquon Barkley.
Well, here's another thing when it comes to just like the New York Giants. I have seen, we always look at the record predictions and stuff like that. We always
Yeah,
look
yeah,
at,
yeah.
how draft grades, how do these guys do, all
Right.
this stuff. In my opinion, I feel like the Giants have done nothing but just get better this offseason. They've done nothing but get better. However, I still see people saying the Giants at best they'll win like 7 games, and I'm like, I don't get how they didn't lose any coaches, they didn't lose any of their key players, all of their young stars. They re-signed them to mega deals, and it's like, oh my, they
So I
got
think the narrative is
or
that the Giants overachieved last year. And I think a lot of people think they're going to come crashing back down to earth this year. And the
I,
Eagles got better, the Cowboys got better, and the Commanders got better.
that I understand. That I understand. I do think the Cowboys, sticking with Tony Pollard, having
Yeah.
him be the guy, that's a smart move. Eagles getting Jalen Carter. I don't know. I still don't know how that happened, but
He's the best player of the draft. Okay. My
and then
goodness.
no one's concerned about Washington. I'm not even gonna mention Washington, but
They've got a good defense, though. I mean, they're one of those teams that you don't want to just go over lightly
when
in the
healthy,
NFC East.
I mean, how many games is Chase Young gonna play this year? I mean, I haven't
We'll
seen this
find
man
out.
play. I feel like I haven't seen this man play since like college.
Yeah, we'll find
I
out. We
swear
will
I
find
haven't.
out.
But like I said, I'm looking at the Giants, and I think they can make a wild card spot. I think they can
Yeah.
make a wild card spot. I think they can, and it's so funny too, because it's easy saying this now, but looking at where they were at last year, I was saying to myself, like, once in the last like week or two, like, it's like, oh, if this team beats this team, then this team will become this seed, like, oh,
All
all
that
that stuff,
crap.
like
Yeah.
at the last week. I literally looked at the Giants and I was like, okay, if I'm being honest, I want Minnesota. Minnesota is the only team right now where I'm like, you know what? I think they could beat them. I think they could beat Minnesota. I'm like, that's the only team I'm like, and of course, at least for me as a Giants fan, that was probably game of the year.
Yeah.
That was probably game of the year for the New York Giants. And I'm like, oh my God, like that was arguably one of the best games I've seen from the New York Giants in the past 5 years.
Because they showed that, I mean, well, they hadn't made the playoffs in however long. And that last playoff game was against the Packers where the boat
Yeah.
incident happened. If we want to, is it called the boat incident? Do we call it that now? Where
It's
the
just like
famous
the
picture?
it's just like a cursed photo, I guess you could say.
It's
It's just
something
like
else.
but listen, not only all those moves I mentioned, they traded for a top 3 tight end in the league when healthy. And then that went way under the radar
It
that like
did.
no one talked about.
Well, because we've
I've
seen
been
Darren Waller injured every year for the past, what, three,
that
four
is
years
yeah,
now.
I get it.
So I
I
think
understand.
people just want to need to see him on the field first. I've heard that Daniel Jones and him have great chemistry
I
already.
I saw yesterday that they were talking about the Giants training camp. I quote, they were like, I have never seen a player like this right now for the New York Giants that's like causing this much disruption and like frustration with this defense. They said
Yeah.
every single time Daniel Jones throws the ball to Darren Waller, he rarely drops it and he's open by like 5 to 10 yards. They
Yeah.
said Darren Waller, he's like in a league of his own in the Giants training camp. It's, they said by far he's Daniel Jones' favorite target. That's why
I
I'm
heard they
like,
had to take Darren Waller off the field so Daniel Jones would throw to somebody else. So that's going to be an interesting connection to watch.
that's gonna be
Now the
very
thing is,
interesting.
now what does that speak to, right? I mean, does that speak to Darren Waller's greatness? Does that say that you should be concerned about the Giants in any way, shape, or form?
I
in
don't
terms of
think
their
of
defensive unit, or is Daniel Jones just someone who doesn't want to throw a deep ball and just throws to his tight end? It can be all of those things at once too.
because also I'm looking at the weapons that they got. Darius Slay, and I think he's a good deep ball guy. I
He's
think
not
he's
bad.
pretty. I think he's all right. Jalen Hyatt, I thought he was really good at
Speedster.
Tennessee. Out of the receivers in the draft, he's not the one I would have preferred, but I'm glad they got one of them. And Jalen Hyatt's my guy now, so now I'm gonna support him. But it's like
Have to.
these guys are young, These guys they drafted Wan'Dale Robinson last year. He barely played, and it's like
Right.
you got a lot of young, unexperienced weapons. Give them time. Give them time. Let them relax. Daniel Jones needs to build trust with them as they need to build trust with Daniel Jones. But Darren Waller, this guy, come on. He's the most experienced guy here. He knows exactly what he's doing before he even got traded. So I think, yes, obviously I understand the argument that every other team in the NFC East, they all got better, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants made it out second in that division. I wouldn't be surprised.
Now, was that? I mean, that's got to be more because the Dallas Cowboys do not fit in. We'll see what
Yeah, I
they
wouldn't be
do.
surprised.
Dak said he doesn't want to options. We'll see about that, Mister Prescott. But
Yeah.
I mean, Giants. There's a lot of ways they can go. I don't know where they're going to go. I do see them. I see them making the playoffs again. I'd have to break down the full scape of who's going to get in and schedules and all that. But
Ooh.
I can see the Giants. I mean, they have a good chance of getting in, especially expanded playoff. I can see them getting as that third wild card again. It just depends. Is Daniel Jones better than last season, or was that the best that Daniel Jones had to offer last season? That's the big question mark. It's not about how good Saquon Barkley is. His defense is getting better. Darren Waller is Darren Waller. Now Daniel Jones has a couple weapons that he's got at his disposal. You know, what sort of criticisms is Daniel Jones going to answer to? Is he going to throw that deep ball more? Is he going to become, less of a runner, more of a pocket passer, like we're waiting for him to become? Is he going to become less reliant on that running game? He had 708 yards. Is he a Lamar Jackson type where he's able to use it so well? We don't know, but we'll see what Daniel Jones and the Giants can do with Saquon Barkley, actually on the football team, surprisingly enough. But a player that is worried to maybe not be on the football team, maybe not be playing football come the regular season. We'll see. Joe Burrow suffered a calf injury, a very, very unfortunate
You
calf
hate to
injury
see
for
it.
Joe Burrow. I mean, it was a tough video. And it was one of those videos where when you see a guy run, no contact, and he just kind of starts grabbing at area, knee area, you start to just get scared. But fortunately for Joe Burrow, I mean, obviously it's unfortunate they suffered this injury, but it's a calf strain, a right calf strain. It said he will miss several weeks. Jamar Chase said that Joey B gave him the thumbs up, gave him the nod, actually, gave him a little bit of a nod, said I'll be good. So, I mean, if you're going to suffer an injury like that several weeks, it can go really any way. It depends on the severity of the calf strain. And again, maybe more news has come out since. But from what I can see, from what I've kind of gathered here, is that Joe Burrow should be back in time, potentially for the regular season. Right, this may be something that we don't even need to talk about anymore, or maybe he'll miss a week or two. Again, depending on the severity of the calf strain, we'll see though. But if Joe Burrow has to miss, a few games here, if he has to miss the first 5 games, 4 games of the regular season, I mean, how big of a blow is this for the Bengals? Are we blowing this out of proportion? I mean, Joe Burrow, he's had some injuries. He's had a few injuries over the past few years. His rookie year, he had the knee issue. He had a
Yeah.
horrible knee injury. Now we got a right calf strain. Obviously the Bengals are a very good team. They're going to be very successful. Joe Burrow is going to be able to start all 17 games. But I mean, this has got to be concerning if you're a Bengals fan.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm not concerned.
Okay.
I am really not that concerned. I'm looking at this. Okay, first of all, when you're watching that video back, you'll notice he had his calf wrapped up. He
He
had a
did.
thing on it prior to that even happening, and he said that Joe Burrow. It was said that Joe Burrow he had a little bit of tightness the day before. He had a little bit of
Right.
tightness on that same. So it's been a problem that he's known about, and now it's a strain. Obviously, not something you want to happen to your star quarterback, but let's take a look at this. You got training camp, you got preseason still. You got a couple of weeks before week 1 even gets going. And also, is it Joe Burrow due for an extension?
I believe
And
so.
and
It's
didn't the
getting there,
guy
yeah.
who and didn't the guy who was drafted in your same draft class, he got what, $256 million, something around there?
Yes, a
If
lot of money.
honestly, now that I'm Joe Burrow, I'm saying to myself, you know what? You can't say I'm not holding out because I'm looking out for my health. But all I do know is that the starting price for my extension starts at $256 million.
That's where it starts.
That's where it starts
Yeah.
because there is no way that you're gonna make me lesser paid than Justin Herbert. There's just, I mean, no disrespect to Justin Herbert, but I'm just saying there's no way that Joey B is gonna get paid less than Justin Herbert. There's no question. And now
Well,
I
I mean,
look at
this
it
is
as, listen,
too, right? So if Justin Herbert's going to make all that money, Joe Burrow's not. Joe Burrow is going to make more money. Like that's just a guarantee. They're not even going to
yeah,
start at Justin Herbert's price. They're going to start above Justin Herbert's price. That's just the way it's going to
well,
go, especially.
obviously. I'm looking at this and I'm just saying, man, like I don't see how this is not a, I don't want to say a good situation, but it's a situation that you kind of want to be in because now it's like, okay, well, I could hold out. No one's gonna say anything because I have an injury, and oh, I'm looking for a contract extension. Well, let's start right now. Let's start right now.
They could,
I got nowhere else to be. I'm in
but he does
recovery
have
mode
less
right now.
leverage when he's hurt. He does. I mean, you have to be.
I don't know. I mean, at least for Joe Burrow, I mean, I'm looking at him and I'm saying, okay, I was the most sacked quarterback over the last 4 years because of this horrific offensive line that you put together for me. Now it's a little better, but that's not even saying a whole lot. It's a little better.
It's
And
good. It's good enough,
I complained?
which is not
No,
enough.
I have not complained. I took this team to the damn Super Bowl and I've shut up. I could have said in draft day, I could have force my way out of Cincinnati and say, I don't want to go to Cincinnati. I do not want to go there. It's a dumpster fire organization. I don't want to go there. And no, I didn't do that. I did everything and more for this organization. He shouldn't be as valued as these running backs have been recently. But, I am the Cincinnati Bengals right now. So as of right now, I could not even touch a football until the beginning of September. At this point in time, you're going to pay me. And if you don't, you're going right back into poverty. That's exactly what's going to happen.
We'll
That's why
see.
I think that's why I think Joe Burrow at this point, he has all of the leverage. I think he has all of it at this point. I don't think the Bengals have a lot to go off of right now where they're saying, we don't know. We don't know. Like, shut up. What? What do you mean you don't know?
I mean, I don't think the Bengals are. I don't think there's going to be any contract disputes between the Bengals and Joe Burrow. I mean, he's probably one of the most not even loved men in Cincinnati right now. He's up there for most loved men in America. He's like
Yeah.
has become such a huge sports celebrity at this point because of the Super Bowl run, because of his personality, and because of the national championship at LSU. He was already that guy. He
Yeah.
is just this mythical swagger about him that people seem to think that he has, and he's got it. He's got a little bit of that, okay, and he's got a great thing going on with Jamar Chase, his former college teammate. So I don't think that there's going to be any issue, calf strain aside. Even if he had a calf
Mhm.
strain, even if he had a more significant injury, I still think the Bengals would have no problem extending Joe Burrow. He's shown he can recover very well from injury and hasn't had a lot of issues, and hasn't had issues that you know are going to put a guy in a situation where he's going to decline, right? These are, the calf strain is something he can come back from. So I don't think that there's going to be a lot of contract dispute between the Bengals. I think that they're just going to hand him a blank check and call it a day because they have to. I mean, he's the biggest. Joe Burrow is probably, I mean, you look at, Ken Anderson, you look at Boomer Esiason, you look at all the other guys that they've had. Joe Burrow's already up there for some of the best quarterbacks in the history of the Cincinnati Bengals. So, he's already better than Andy
Already.
Dalton at this point, in my opinion, just as a player. He may not have as many passing yards, but he's better than Andy Dalton. He's better than Andy Dalton ever was. That's just a fact. So kind of talking about that, right? When you look at the AFC North and Joe Burrow's potential injury, let's say he misses 4 weeks, right? Even that, I mean, any ground in the NFL is a lot to make up. So if Joe Burrow has to miss a little bit of time, the Cincinnati Bengals, again, the favorite in the AFC North, at least in our eyes. If you're from Baltimore, maybe you don't agree with that, but if you give teams like the Ravens and not the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're kind of putting them off to the side for now. We don't know how good Kenny Pickett is yet. And Cleveland, who knows what happens with Deshaun Watson, how he plays. Can he get back to that top 3 quarterback in the NFL stature? Is somewhere in the middle, or is he not good anymore? So do you see a team maybe sneaking in there if Joe Burrow's hurt for a little bit?
It has to be the Browns. I don't see here's when we're talking about, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, as you said, Pittsburgh I'm putting aside because, like I said, we don't know what Kenny Pickett's going to look like. If we're looking at Baltimore, I have zero clue what their offense is going to look like. There's sometimes in training camp where it looks like Odell's the guy. Then it looks like, oh, Rashad Bateman's looking really good. And then it's like, oh, no, actually Zay Flowers. And now it's like, well, they're trying to fix their running sequence. I don't know what's going on with their offense. I don't know
Yeah,
what's
it's
going to
kind
be
of
the picture they're
jumbled.
up. So I have no clue what's going on there. And I'm looking at Cleveland. I don't see where they got worse. I don't see any position where they're like, oh man, they lost this guy. Oh my god, they still have arguably the best running back in the league. They
Yeah.
still have, despite controversies, they still have one of the best quarterbacks in this league. Say what you want about Deshaun Watson, quarterback wise, he's one of the best quarterbacks in this entire league. He
Right.
literally is. And I mean, they still have Amari Cooper, and it's like I'm looking at this team. If you look at Cincinnati, and if they continue to struggle with Joe Burrow and his health does become a concern, I see Cleveland sneaking up there first in their division.
Yeah.
I see them taking the whole thing. I don't I don't see any other team really doing that. I look at Cleveland and it's like, man, if something was to happen to Cincinnati, I wouldn't be shocked if they made the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if they made a run. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
It's not entirely out of the question. I mean, I've been saying that I think the Browns, we were thinking of maybe talking about the most, surprise teams in the NFL. I guess we're doing it now because I think the Browns are going to surprise a lot of people, especially, Deshaun Watson, a guy that, shouldn't be in the NFL, but he is in the NFL, unfortunately, right? So at his best, at his prime, he's still a young quarterback, by the way,
Yeah, he
relatively
is.
to Aaron Rodgers' 40-year-old self. So he is a guy that when he was great before his thing, he was a top 3 quarterback, top 5 quarterback in this league, right? And that was just a couple of years ago for Deshaun Watson. He showed no signs of slowing down, has not really dealt with injury all that much. He did have it earlier in his career, but hasn't really had to deal with that. He's had a lot of time off, which did not help him when he played last year. But now that he has a full training camp, he's got a full off season. Is he going to get back to that level that he was at before? If he does, the Browns are one of the better teams in the AFC, and we have a ridiculous American football conference that we have to look out for. I
Exactly,
mean, it'll
man.
just be absurd. You look at the AFC North, you already got ridiculous quarterback play there, the Chiefs, and then the Jets, and then the Bills as well. Yes, I snuck the Jets in there because we're going to talk about them. Um, I think the Browns have a great shot. I think even healthy Joe Burrow, 100% Joe Burrow, the Browns have a great shot to win that division because they can run the football like nobody else with Nick Chubb.
I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think that's
Yeah,
a hot
I
take at
don't, I
all.
don't think it should be. I mean, I think Baltimore is still going to be good. I don't know if they're going to have a great year, though. We'll see what happens with Lamar Jackson now that he has his deal. I mean, Deshaun has his deal. Joe Burrow doesn't really have his deal. So we'll see. But I think the Browns have a great shot. I think the Browns have a great shot in the AFC. And transitioning, just a little bit east to New York, back to New York. We're going back. Well, it's not New York. Okay. It's not New York. Okay. I've got the
East
devil
Rutherford,
shirt going.
man.
East Rutherford, New Jersey, the New Jersey Giants and the New Jersey Jets. Okay, let's just be honest with ourselves here. They play at MetLife Stadium. Okay, when Taylor Swift came to town, it did not boost the economy of New York. It boosted the economy of New Jersey, right? So, anyway, you've got Aaron Rodgers now as a New York Jet. If you told me that 5 years ago, I would say that you're crazy that Aaron Rodgers would be a New York Jet. It would not make any sense to me. Oh, he's going to actually, no, I said he was probably going to go pull a Brett Favre and go to one of those NFC North teams. But he didn't. He went to Aaron Rodgers after going on his missions and his blackout meditations and his ayahuasca and everything else. He decided to come to. He wanted to go. He successfully did what Damian Lillard is trying to do. Right? He said, "I want to be a Jet. I'm going to the Jets," and he went to the Jets. Sure. Aaron Rodgers said, I want to win a Super Bowl and decided to go to the Jets. This makes no sense, right? We'll see. We'll talk about it. But Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, it's looked great. It seemed like a great fit. The Jets are one of the more exciting young teams in the entire NFL with their talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. My goodness. I think they're going to have a top 10 defense this year, potentially a top 10 offense if you really look at it with Garrett Wilson and if Breece Hall's healthy and if they get Dalvin Cook. I mean, this could go a lot of ways. I think the Jets are going to be a really good ball club this year. But Joel, I want to get your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and what you've seen from him and the New York Jets so far.
I love it. I honestly love it. I was
Yep.
saying from the moment he was starting to become this, potential target for the Jets, I said, man, if the Jets got him, I'm seeing vision. This may be a hot take, but I'm seeing visions of Tom Brady in Tampa.
That's what I'm saying.
Because it's like once he went to New York, it's now everyone wants to go to New York. Everyone wants to go play for Aaron Rodgers. And listen, people forget this guy's a 2-time MVP in the last 3 years.
Yeah, won MVP a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I find it hard to believe that this guy is washed. He's a scrub. I just don't see it. And not to mention, you see all the teams that were actually bidding for this guy. They wanted him so freaking badly, willing to pay whatever he wanted. And I mean, he had the Jets doing stuff for him before he was even officially traded there.
Yeah.
You know how crazy that is? You know how much power that you have over a team doing that? I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers and what he's doing so far for the Jets before even taking a snap in a regular season game. I find it very hard to believe that this is going to flop. I don't think it's going to flop. And I think everyone within that organization actually have a belief in their quarterback, which is rare, especially in the last couple of years.
It's not rare. It's never happened.
It's so, I mean,
maybe Mark Sanchez for a couple years, but that was about it.
Aaron Rodgers is going to do things for this organization that has not been done for this organization in the past 50 plus years, man. I mean, it's going to be insane. It's going to be insanity for this team. I'm looking at them. I see them winning the division. I see them making a deep playoff run. I could potentially see them going to the Super Bowl. I could see it.
It's possible. It's so possible. The thing about the New York Jets, though, right? You look at their schedule, and they have a tough schedule, right?
They do.
Buffalo, they start out. I mean, they have to play Buffalo twice a year, obviously. Then they go to Dallas. They've got New England again at home. They've got Kansas City. They got to go at Denver with Sean Payton in his comments. They got to play the Eagles still. They got to go on the road to the Giants. I think obviously you probably say they're going to beat the Jets there. Chargers, Raiders, Bills again. They got to play the Falcons. Washington, and Cleveland on the road. But here's my thing, right? What I just said is the take that I'd say about everybody has had, and I could not dislike it more. Okay, I know that schedule plays an important factor in where you're going to be in terms of the regular season, in terms of the postseason as well, your record and you're winning the division and all of that. You look at those Tom Brady Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? You mentioned them. They were a wild card team. They got in. I mean, that division was just terrible, and they didn't have the greatest regular season compared to other teams. They weren't Kansas City. They were just a gritty team with Tom Brady on it and then a great offensive line. The Jets' only concern for me is the offensive line. Now, you look at this team with Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. I have not seen Aaron Rodgers smile heading into the season in like 10 years. He did not enjoy Green Bay for so long and didn't talk about it. I mean, he was stuck there. He signed a big deal, made a lot of money, won one Super Bowl during his time as a Packer. And you look at the way that Aaron Rodgers' legacy is being discussed. A lot of people from I'd say about, from 18 to 26 will say that Aaron Rodgers is probably the most talented quarterback they've ever seen in their lives, right? In terms of just pure arm talent, just in terms of pure throwing of the football and all of that stuff. Yes, Tom Brady's a better quarterback and all of that. But everybody would always say, well, Aaron Rodgers might be a better player, but is not a better, legacy-wise, however.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you mentioned Aaron Rodgers being an MVP just recently. I mean, he still got it. Aaron Rodgers still has it. And the Jets, They've always been a quarterback away. They've got one of the best young receivers in the NFL. They've got a great receiving core. They got Breece Hall. They got a great running game. They got all these guys on rookie deals. They got the best corner of the NFL potentially. I'm gonna go out. I mean, you said it, but I'm gonna say it. The Jets are winning the whole thing. The New York Jets are going to raise that Lombardi Trophy at the end of the year, and I am confident in saying that. Okay, the AFC is going to be their toughest journey, right? The Buffalo Bills have fallen off. This team has their morale is completely down. I see the Jets winning the division. I see the Jets beating Buffalo twice, and I don't think it's going to be very hard for them with Aaron Rodgers because Josh Allen is the Aaron Rodgers prototype, right? But Rodgers, has the experience. Okay, I see them winning this division more so because I don't think Buffalo is going to win 12 games again. I see the Jets winning 12. I see the Jets going out there and doing that. They're going to probably have a tough start to the year, but Dallas is not all that to me. New England is not all that to me. I know that, but the Jets are going to lose a game to New England because that's just how it works. They'll probably lose to Kansas City, lose to Philadelphia. Let's start the year off like 5-2. I mean, come on. So the New York Jets, you just have to get in this league in sports. You just have to get in. I'm not worried about how you start. I'm worried about how you finish. Did you get into the playoffs? You've seen your New York Giants do it twice with bad records. So this team is the most balanced team in the NFL in terms of having a top 10 offense, a top 10 defense, the way that they're probably going to have. Their offensive line's going to improve over the year, and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. I don't see a way that they can't win a couple playoff games. Their only threat to me is Kansas City because they're Kansas City. I see the AFC Championship game being the Chiefs and the Jets, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have his last hurrah, win a thriller, go to the Super Bowl. I don't care who comes out of the NFC because the AFC is superior, and I think the Jets are just as good as any of those teams, but I think the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl, and no, I'm not a Jets fan.
You think he's going to stay there for more than a year?
That's a big question. I think it's a big question. I mean, he said that he does. He said it. He said he doesn't see it being a one-year thing. However, I think if they win the Super Bowl, he's done.
Really?
Yes.
I would argue the opposite.
Because what he said he mentioned it. He said that he doesn't see it being a one-year thing, basically. He said, but depending on my health and the success of the team. So if they win the Super Bowl, he might just call it a career. Like Tom Brady should have.
I think he's literally, oh, you know what? That's not a bad take, but I think he's staying at least 2. I mean, I was saying when he first got traded, I think just because I was excited, I was like, man, he could play another 4 years. He could play another 3-4 years, and it's like,
yeah. Well, I mean, Tom Brady can still play right now, but you got at some point you got to get that AARP card. I mean, you got to do it. So, Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be time soon.
I mean, it sucks to see. It sucks that with all this success that the Jets are going to have, that we project that they have, they're probably going to be in the same situation in the next 2 years, 3 years, looking for another quarterback.
After this, I mean, look at where the Bucks are. They got Baker and Kyle Trask battling.
Once Aaron Rodgers is done, it's like, all right, now I want out. All right, now can you trade me? Okay, now can you do this? Okay, Aaron Rodgers is gone. Can you just? I don't want to be here no more. And it's like, the Jets are back to being the Jets. Ah, damn.
Well, unless he's going to, get Zach Wilson up to speed and make it. No, that's not happening either.
He's going to be up to speed in the XFL, maybe.
Yeah, he'll be right there with Baker and Kyle Trask, maybe. I don't know. And I love Baker. I love you, Baker. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. But I think the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's I just looking at everything. I don't think Kansas City does it again. I think they're still really great. But there's just something about the way Aaron Rodgers is. And I think we're going to see one of the better Aaron Rodgers that we've seen the past 8 or so years because he looks happy. He looks like he really wants to be where he's at. And I have not seen Aaron Rodgers like that since the last time he won the Super Bowl when we were 10. So it's just a whole new Aaron Rodgers that we haven't seen before. We've been talking for the past 8 years about how disgruntled he's been in Green Bay. And now he's finally out of there. So that's just what I'm seeing.
I find this very hard for the Jets to mess up, and that's gonna sound like I'm jinxing them, but you managed to find someone that wants to be there, that wants to win a Super Bowl there. You got guys that are coming to New York because they're saying we believe we can win a Super Bowl with the New York Jets. And you managed to convince 52 guys that they could do that. And it's like,
Yeah.
we didn't do anything. we didn't do
I
anything.
mean, they
And they
drafted so well. I mean, they've built that team so well.
That's true.
Joe Douglas is like going to be a god
I
in New Jersey. After this is
Not a
all.
lot of people remember this, but I remember people hating on the Sauce Gardner pick. I remember people that were
Come on.
hating on like Quentin Williams. I was like, really? I'm like, oh my god, I don't think it's that bad of. And I knew Sauce was gonna be good. I didn't think he was gonna become a top 5 corner in the NFL
Same thing
within
with
year
Garrett
one.
Wilson. I didn't think he was going to be a top 12 receiver in the NFL in year one, but they are.
Another one, he's insane, man.
Yeah.
Dude, he
Brees
was
Hall.
having
I
Joe.
love Brees Hall. I didn't know he was going to be a top 12 running. If he didn't tear his knee, they make the
Remember,
playoffs.
remember that game against the Browns where he was making Joe Flacco look like prime elite Joe
It was
Flacco?
nuts. It was nuts.
It was insane. Like that's before Aaron Rodgers even got there, and it's like this team was already on the up. They're already on the
Yeah.
come up, and now
And
it's
it was,
like
they were a quarterback. It's the only time that team that's like, oh, they're just such a quarterback away. And they get it the next year, So we'll see where Aaron Rodgers, performs. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. You see them making a deep playoff run. I mean, obviously, we still have to see how they play week one. My opinion may change by week one or after week two or whatever. But I think seeing Aaron Rodgers in the number 8 as a Jet is going to be a very fun time in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
the 8 is weird. I need to see him in 12, man. That's just me.
Yeah, but
I
Joe
understand.
Namath.
Yeah, but Joe Namath. I mean, he said he could have it.
But Aaron Rodgers has
He
respect.
said he could have
That
it,
that
and he still said
that
no. And I'm
shows
like,
how much
ah,
respect Aaron Rodgers has for this organization. It's so random. Why does Aaron Rodgers love the Jets so much? He's a California guy.
random,
I don't get it.
random, random,
However, I'll take it. Whatever. He
so
respects
random.
NFL history. He respects Joe Namath, even though I think he's the most overrated quarterback in the history of the National Football League. But anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter. He's probably the worst quarterback in the Hall of Fame, Joe Namath, but he's Broadway Joe, so we'll just let it rock. But anyway, so the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. The Giants and Saquon Barkley exist. Cool. And the Browns, they might have something going on there. So that'll do it for this first episode of Break Panel Sports. No longer on the break for us. Joel, any final thoughts?
I hope this lasts as long as we wish it will.
There we go. I mean, that's just up to us, right? We'll get it done. We'll get it done. But thank you so much.
We will get it done.
Yes, we'll have all our social medias linked once we actually go make those. But yeah, it's been fun. Thank you for coming on as well. Always, Joel. Always fun to sit down and talk about some ball. We'll be back.
Down.
We will be back here with Break Panel Sports. Thank you so much for listening / watching on Spotify or YouTube. And we got more coming on the way. We'll see you in just a bit.